welcome to another edition of ICTBC, if I could get all of the letters out. ICTBC. I am Librarian Sarah.
I'm Librarian Racine. We're glad you could join us today. We're going to be talking about The Power.
This book was kind of intense, and that's an understatement.
It was so intense.
Be sure that you're joining us in the comments with any of the thoughts that you have, and join right in with what we're about to talk about, because we're going to launch into this discussion. Oh my gosh, there's so much to unpack, right? Okay, so just basic plot line. It is present day, and it's like over the course of 10 years, and it starts with the day of the girls, which is the day that the girls realize they have this power of shocking. And it takes 10 years before basically the world explodes because everybody's blown each other up.
Spoiler alert.
I think you know what's happening, right? It's dystopian.
Yeah.
But then the book is also framed by letters that the author is purporting to write to another person that take place 5,000 years in the future. So it's like a future look at what happened right now that would cause the end of the world. Is that pretty accurate?
And he's calling it speculative fiction.
Yeah.
Because they're in a future where women are in charge,
Mm-hmm.
and they have all of the power because they have these electrical impulses that go. Teenage girls find out that they can shock people, they can shock each other, they can send it. The shock can be as little as, oh, that tickles, to, oh, is it a shock or is it a heart attack?
And depending on where you shock that person, I mean, you know, it could have pretty drastic
physiological effects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, and
so it follows like 5 people,
okay.
4 or 5 people, and one of them, she's the mayor of the town. Mm-hmm. She's important.
She's the mom.
She's a mom. And she discovers, well, the teenage girls can transfer the power. They can awaken the power in older women who don't know that they have this power. And it's funny because she talks about when she's a kid and how she would dream that she would play with power, like a witch in her hand.
Oh, I did. I totally missed that.
And she was like, her little brothers her brothers were like, oh, I'm a spaceman. I've got a helmet. I've got a ray gun. You know, all of that. And she's like, she's just playing with the power that she's got innately. And it was really interesting because she didn't need anything else.
Yeah.
Oh, man, this was such a good book. And it's funny because it isn't a book. It's not a gentle book.
It's not a gentle book.
That
is a great way to describe it.
It really takes that whole, you know, if women were in charge, mothers wouldn't have wars.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man, they would have wars. Because one of the things that happens in the book is that sex slaves, women that have been involved in human trafficking in Eastern Europe, rise up and take over their...
And the prophet of this book, right? Because with all new religions, usually start with a prophet. And she has been abused by her foster parents. She's been passed around from children's home to foster home to foster home. And in the one where she finally gets the power, she's being abused regularly as a form of discipline. And then she gets the power, she runs off, she may have, you know, murdered someone in the process. And, you know, but she becomes the prophet, right? The let us all join together sisters, and, you know, refers to God as a she, and how the mothers are more important than the sons, and this kind of...
So it's almost like they've had an evolutionary leap, kind of.
Okay.
And so with that evolutionary leap, you need a new religion.
Yeah.
That's what happens with it. It was interesting. Oh, Noelle is there, and she says she's excited to read this book. Grab it. Jinx. And then Corey, hi Corey. It's a great book, but boy, it's...
I really like how you said it's not a gentle read. Okay, I thought that, and this was maybe my naivete, I was like, oh, it's a feminist book. It's going to be all about how women run the world. Who run the world? You know, I was like channeling Beyonce. but it's not a utopian book. It is very much a
It's
dystopian
not a Beyonce
book.
Utopia?
It is. Well, if Beyonce and the ladies had been abused for years and then all of a sudden had this power, and would they? I think that's such a fascinating just look into humanity, right? If you were given all of this power, what would you do with it? Would you take over the world and not allow for any, would you go to that extreme and start a war and eventually the end of the world? Or would you be the mom that's just out to protect your kids? Would you be that, wonderful sisterhood? This book says no, you wouldn't. You'd go after owning it, right? Isn't that what Allie, the voice tells Allie? It's like, there's something that she says where, and I guess I think the voice is a she. I guess because it's coming from within
The
Allie.
prophet,
Yes.
Mother Eve,
Mm-hmm.
who starts new faith, and she has the convents, and she's like, people taking children that have been, give them a safe home.
Yeah.
She was an orphan. She knows what it's like. So that's one of her pet projects. Well, she's got this voice that kind of guides her and tells her what to do. And I thought that was really interesting because is it the voice of an angel?
Uh-huh.
Is it the voice of a devil? Is it like vestiges of her mother's voice?
Her
that she's
foster
creating?
mother, right? Not her, or her.
Well, I didn't
And so
think. Oh,
At first, I thought it was her biological mother, right? Because she doesn't know her mother. She there was a sickness, and she was left in the system.
Yeah.
And then so the end is her. That's what. Yeah. Her foster
Okay, I
mother
didn't get that. Oh my
is
God.
named Eve, which that was a spoiler.
Okay.
Greg, flash that spoiler alert. I'm
I don't-
sorry,
he's
y'all.
already had to have.
I forgot to preface that. But you don't find that out until the end. And I was
Oh
like,
my
oh my gosh,
gosh.
mind blown. This book blew my mind like 15 times.
Yeah.
At
well,
least.
and I think that's why I like this book so much.
I think I agree.
Because it sucks you in. I mean, that's the best part.
Mm-hmm.
Is it's not like you're slogging through. Oh, is the action gonna start? No, man, it starts in, and you're taking on the ride.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's so good.
Okay, so let's talk about this for a second. A lot of the online discussion has called this revenge porn. Can we say that word? Can we say the P word on library television? Do you agree with that? And I would like to know why or why not.
That's a tough one
Mm-hmm.
because it's gratuitous in the revenge that's extracted among the men.
Mm-hmm.
Now, okay, I wouldn't do those kinds of things. Does that make sense?
Yes, but hold up, because I was reading online. Oh my gosh. Okay. So, I'm not supposed to hit the table. Sorry, Greg. So, I was reading an interview that she gave to the New York Times, and I would like to kind of preface it. She basically says that the interviewer is talking about how, would people have gone to
What'd
that
she
level?
say? What's
And
the author
so
say?
he says, so are you saying that we're all potentially oppressors? And she says, do you think that you are so exceptional that if you had been born a German in the 30s, you would have understood immediately that Lebensraum was a lie? That you would have tried to assassinate Hitler? Do you believe that your ethics are so exceptional that you would immediately have rebelled? That you would have fought for the rights of men in this kind of a situation? I paraphrased that last bit because it was getting a little long. But she's saying, no, I don't think you would have. I don't think you would have been the better person who fought for the rights of men. You would have been with Tatiana, what's-her-face, dictator of Moldavia, or Besapara, and taken that power and run with it. Yep. Made the kid lick the glass bourbon
Oh
off
my
the
gosh.
floor.
There's one part where one of her servants drops a bottle, or no wait. Does he bring her the wrong bottle
I'm being
of booze?
secretive on purpose because I want them to read the book.
I'm sorry, yeah, you're right.
Read the book.
Read the book.
and then talk to us. I'm going to have a lot to unpack with this book for a long time. So maybe we can keep these, oh, you don't know what I'm pointing to. We have comments so we can see them as they go, up on the board. I'll be checking this pretty frequently because I feel like there's just so much.
There is.
How are we doing on time?
I don't know.
Oh, we're good.
Okay.
Okay. So, who would you say's story is the most engaging for you?
There were so many people in this book that I really like. And I think maybe that's too why I was so into it, is because all of the protagonists.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you get the same thing that's happening in the world told from all of these different
5 different
points.
perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's the mayor. Mm-hmm. There's the guy who's the photojournalist.
The mayor who becomes the governor.
Mayor who becomes the governor,
mm-hmm.
who becomes
the senator, I think,
yeah,
at the end, right?
She's a power broker.
Yeah.
Photojournalist.
Mm-hmm. The photojournalist who is the only male protagonist.
True. There's Roxy Monk.
Yeah.
Who's the warrior for the prophetess.
Prophetess.
I liked her a lot.
Roxy the prophet.
Roxy.
I agree.
Because she's like this girl who, her mom gets killed
mm-hmm.
because of her dad's bad business dealings. Mm-hmm. He's a thug in organized crime in London, and she loves her dad. She worships him because he's big. He gets things done when he talks.
He doesn't take
listen.
Business from
and so people. It's this whole like Cray Brothers underworld. It was brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, then she becomes the one with the power in this family, mm-hmm. because she's got like this unlimited skein. They call them skeins, and they're
on the collarbone.
Reservoirs of electricity. That was kind of fascinating.
Yeah, I was trying to picture it.
Because it was like, okay, you've got like a snail underneath your... It sounded gross, but it was interesting. So she becomes like one of the strongest people mm-hmm. with the power in the book. And she gets things
because it's like an
done.
Unlimited source of power. Like usually these girls, they run out, right? They use it all up in a blast or a couple of blasts. And by honing the skills and really controlling where it goes, they're able to do more with it. But she seems to have an unlimited source of power. She can do big blast here, big blast there.
She can
blast,
cook the
all
ocean.
The blasts. Yes.
She can cook a seashore.
Yes. It was amazing.
In a bay, and everybody's like, ah.
Like she's the one that figures out that you can put the electricity in with the water. Oh my god.
Yeah. So anyways, Roxy was one of my favorite characters. I loved her.
So as you were talking, I had thought Tunde, is that how you think we pronounce his name?
Yeah, he was the photojournalist.
Mm-hmm. He was my most engaging character, just because his was the complete reversal, right? At the beginning, he is this very confident man. He is the first person to kind of see this power take over, and he's in this country, and he captures these women just like marching, basically. Marching through the streets, and I think it's in a country where like women aren't allowed to drive, so it's kind of a major thing here. And so he goes and captures this, and he's confident, and the women take him in, and he can do no harm and do no wrong. And then as the course of the novel goes, he's completely reversed. He's fearful. He's fearful of the women because they're no longer...
They are scary.
They are scary. They're
Tarantino scary.
Yes. Like Reservoir Dogs, but women with electrical powers.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like just cutting off a man's ear for no reason.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it was crazy.
So for me, it was his whole reversal. But then I'm thinking, Roxy did the same thing. She was where he went, as he went kind of down, she came up, right? She started off on the low end of the totem pole and grew into being the leader of her little family, right?
Oh my gosh.
Because of the power.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to spoil it for you what happens to Roxy at the end, because that's kind of also mind-blowing.
Okay, so we have a question here. Noelle asks, is this following one related group, like a family, or a bunch of different people? these people are
They're not connected.
not generally connected. And there is the mother, Margot, who's the senator, and her daughter, Jo, and it kind of follows them a little bit. But I liked how they were different stories, but they were all telling the different facet of the story. Or,
They all had a very different viewpoint as this thing was happening to everyone across the world.
Yeah.
Should we talk about how it happened? I don't know. Let's leave that for you.
Yeah.
You can, because they talk a little bit about how, Naomi talks a little bit about how this whole thing happened, right? How this power manifested itself in all of the girls across the world. And it's kind of fascinating, like, how that happened. It was as a result of something in World War II, and then it just kind of took over. So you can read that. I had another... so
Greg, do we have another question real quick? I
we
see
have another
comments.
question.
Sorry.
Okay, we'll keep talking. Greg will get us those questions here in a
Don't
minute.
forget, this is, number 10?
Yes.
So this is something out of the news. We're calling this something out of the news because, what was it? People loved this book. There were people that were recommending this book that I was kind of surprised by. And
it came out really in the midst of all of the Me Too things that were going on. But you know what? She wrote it, and it was released in the midst of all of these things. So it's almost like the interview that I read also talked about how she was writing this before any of the Me Too stuff came out, right? And so as it's released, it just so happens that in the news, all of these stories are coming out about abused women and things like that. And so...
she really hit the zeitgeist, didn't she?
Did, yes. All right. Oh, we have somebody joining us from Spain. Hello, Leonardo. Welcome. I'm so glad you could join us. That's awesome.
Hi, Jennifer.
And
all right.
Noelle says different perspectives on the same story. You know what? We love that too.
Yeah.
I think that's really what contributes to the brilliancy of this novel. If it was just one protagonist, I don't know that we would have gotten this rich. I don't think so either, because it's not just what happens in the USA, right? It's what happens worldwide. It's definitely this is going on, wide sweeping movements, and it was just a really fascinating read. Yeah. I was reading up until very late last night, and I was just, I on the one hand couldn't put it down even though I was so tired, but and then when I was done, I'm one of those people that likes to read about things that I don't understand, because then I can understand them better. Maybe that's why I'm a librarian. But I was like, what can I read to help me unpack this novel? Because it was just so rich.
Yeah.
So Racine, do you have some read-alikes for us?
Yeah. Well, and this is such how do you match this kind of a thing?
Well, let me just say, Margaret Atwood's A Handmaid's Tale.
Okay.
And Margaret Atwood was very much a mentor to Naomi Alderman in the writing of this book. And so if that novel haunted you and you were like, but wait, I want to also read more, I would say pick up The Power.
Yeah. Okay. This one's kind of a satiric take. Mm-hmm. It's called The Blondes. It's by Emily Schultz. It's about women who find that they are afflicted with a rabies-like disease if they're blonde. And it doesn't matter who it is. It's everybody from CEOs to waitresses.
Wait, with rabies?
No, well, it's rabies-like. These women that are blondes.
They go rabid?
Yeah, they go rabid, and they attack other people. So it's satire, it's thriller, mm-hmm. which I was like, huh. And literary.
Okay.
So The Blondes by Emily Schultz.
Intrigued?
That's one of them. And then I think as far as like haunting, mm-hmm. do you ever have those books that you read and it's just like,
yeah, I just read one. It's called The Power.
Well,
by Naomi Alderman.
And this is a 20-year-old book.
Okay.
It's called Into the Forest, by Jean Hegland. And it was made into a movie, and I don't know, I need to go and watch that movie because the book was just fascinating. It's about two sisters
Okay.
who get, after the apocalypse, after the world goes, they're stuck in the forest. Their dad leaves, never comes back, so they're left there to try to figure out what to do next, how to go on with their lives.
Okay.
And I didn't expect it. I didn't expect it to stick with me or like it as much as I did, or be, just like, it was.
Sometimes
it was cool.
we need those books.
Sometimes we need those books. Emma Donahoe.
She did The Room.
She did The Room.
Or just Room, right?
Right. And I think she is a fascinating writer. I'm putting Slammerkin out. It's slang for a loose-fitting dress or a prostitute. And the reason why I'm putting this book in is because it's like 1750s. The girl decides after she sees a red ribbon that that's what she wants in her life. And so she pursues clothes and money. Well, you can't do that as an honest woman most times in those days.
Sure.
So she's a prostitute. But it's funny because it really is what makes a woman free. And what is freedom, and how should women attain it.
Okay.
It's all of that kind of,
That's intriguing.
Yeah. Is a
Just looking for
prostitute
some new
more
books.
free than a woman who is a mistress or, in charge of a household? Is she more free than a woman that's been, the head of another woman's household, and has to work for a living? So I love the way Emma Donahoe writes. Frog Music was crazy because it was like, oh, I'm going off on a tangent. Sorry. Well, pull me back in. Anyways, Emma Donahoe.
Oh, and
That's
Connie,
it.
we've convinced you? Good. Then our job is done.
Yeah.
And once you're done reading it, come back to the comments, because I can assure you there will be a lot.
The
that
power
you'll
was
wanna talk
so
about.
good. Yeah.
It's one of
This
those books
is-
where you immediately read it and you have to discuss it with somebody else.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
and then I was trying to get other people to read it, and they're just like, my TBR is too long, and I'm like, no, this should go at the top. Now.
Yes, do it. Read it. And so next month we will be open by then? Because I don't know if you've noticed, but we're coming to you live from the Advanced Learning Library. There are books on our shelves now. Very exciting.
But there's
And
also a vacuum cleaner over there.
so it's not done. There's still some work to be done. But will we be open by then? Yes. So by the time that we come to you again in June with All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr, we will be open. So people will maybe be walking by behind us.
We should have like a live studio audience, don't you think?
That would be
Besides Greg.
be a little bit ridiculous. But I don't know. I could be into it.
Yeah.
Whatever.
So tell us if you want to meet us for lunch for a good book talk.
Yeah, that'd be fun. We'll have Reverie Roasters in here. That'd be fun.
coffee.
Racine and I are always down for a good book talk.
Yeah.
Okay, Racine, you just read All the Light We Cannot See. What's it about? Can you give us a brief synopsis
okay.
before we close out?
This is our book that everybody's recommended. So we're counting that category.
What is it,
And
category 5?
Number 5. And it's by Anthony Doerr. It's the story about a blind girl in World War II. There's another story that connects with it that kind of intersects about a boy who's a German soldier. And he's brilliant with radios. And so they're in the middle of a fight, but what happened, or, in this great battle.
Uh-huh.
But what are the events leading up to it? And it involves a stone, a great gem.
Okay.
It's almost like a fairy tale in a way. There's a fairy tale woven into the story. So
All right. Well,
all the light
we're
we
recommending
cannot-
it to you because we got it recommended to us, I guess.
And there
right?
are books that they can check out,
Oh,
right?
yeah, there are. We have a book set actually reserved. So if you haven't read this book and you want to read it along with us, I believe you can pick those up at Rockwell, or just send us a message here on Facebook and we can send it out to the nearest branch for you. All right?
Did we do all of it?
I don't
Did we talk
know.
all of it?
No,
I feel like I
Of course
talked.
we didn't.
I talked too much. I'm sorry if I did.
We did not even begin to unpack this novel, but that's why we have the comments. So join us there.
Please do.
We'll post these read-alikes on our website, and we'll see you next month.